Well, hello there, guys. How are you all doing? Welcome, of course, back to Rule of Two Review. It is still E3, and just like last time, let's just get right into this. So now is the time where we get to talk about Sony. Sony's press conference just wrapped up. I finished watching it about 15 or so minutes ago, put together a couple notes of all the games that they showed, and ready to talk about it and discuss what I thought of the show, what Sony did, and the games that they showed, because it's always a big deal. Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo are always the big ones we want to see. What are the console manufacturers actually bringing to us? If you saw my video yesterday, yes, I was a very big fan of what Microsoft did. They had some stumbles and things I didn't love, sure, but overall, I really liked what they did. And so now it was Sony's turn. And jumping right into the details here when it comes to Sony, similar to Microsoft, I liked it. I thought it was a good show. The biggest thing they did, the only thing they did, was just games. I mean, just game trailers. And I think that's why, despite the weirdness and awkwardness and silentness of Sony's press conference, the reason I still feel good about it is because, just like I said last night, I love games. Give me the games. And the one thing you can say Sony did, and they did fairly well, was gave us games. Now, the reason it's a little bit weird and kind of awkward is because literally Shawn Layden came out, said, you know, about 2 or 3 minutes worth of stuff. Welcome, we're PlayStation, we're happy, we're popular, VR, PS4 Pro, blah, blah, blah. Let's just watch a bunch of games. And then they just went into like non-stop game trailers. Most of them featured a section of actual gameplay of, well, what was a gameplay demo? We know a lot of times that's not actually gameplay. It's kind of like pre-rendered or pre-scripted stuff. But regardless, gameplay demos were happening. And that's what it was. No one else ever came on stage. And that's what they did. So I did enjoy that. I will say it was still awkward. There was no smoothness. There was no panache, no finesse to what they did. No actual like presentation. No production value to it really, which is weird because to me, if you're going to be live, that's part of what you want. And even though Microsoft did some awkward things with it and spent the first 20 minutes talking about stuff I didn't care about, the presentation and the way that felt still felt worthy of a live audience, and I do find that stuff interesting, even when sometimes it doesn't go well. It's like it still feels like, well, you have an audience there for a reason, you're addressing that audience, you're putting on a show. And that's fine. Sony didn't do that. It was so strange to just do that. And it was a little bit, I guess, disappointing is the word, and it felt a little bit weird. It's like, I almost would have rather you just put it together like a Nintendo Direct and just address, like in a pre-recorded format with a script. Shawn Layden comes and says, blah, 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 PlayStation. Now enjoy these trailers. And then just go into the trailers and then end. A pre-recorded 30 or 40 minute thing with all these game trailers, a hello and a goodbye, and you're doing exactly what Nintendo does, and you don't have to rent out an auditorium and have all those people there for no reason. So regardless of that weirdness, it was a good show, and I will say it did start with a really cool musical opening. So for the second year in a row, they did that. Super cool, and it really got you into the vibe and set us up for the Uncharted DLC trailer, and that's great. So I love starting with music. I'm a musician, so I appreciated that kind of beginning. They went into the Uncharted DLC thing. Very excited for that. I love Chloe. She was sorely missed in Uncharted 4 and absolutely mistreated in the abomination known as Uncharted 3. So it's really nice to see her coming back with, what was the new character from Uncharted 4? Was it Nia or Mia? I can't remember. She was new to that game, and she was a really great character. Having the two of them together, very excited to see that play out, and that's going to be really great. They went into Horizon DLC. That looks super cool, although I've yet to play it. And then, like I said, it was just games. So this video probably won't be very long. I mean, I could sit here and talk about every game and give you my thoughts about every game, but I'm not going to do that. Some of the highlights, I thought Days Gone looks cool. They showed gameplay. I like that it showed the kind of ebb and flow, and it got really quiet and slow for a minute before it turned into action. So seeing that as a part of that game makes me excited. Monster Hunter World on the PS4 was a huge bomb, you guys. Very excited for that, but it does expose a big flaw and some other things going on, because Monster Hunter has been exclusive to Nintendo for many years and many releases now, and the Switch comes out, and the first Monster Hunter game they're giving us is just a port of a last year game for the 3DS, which is like cool, and I was like excited, but that's just a port of a last gen game that's a handheld. And now the PS4 is getting a brand new Monster Hunter that looks incredible. that game could run on the Switch, I absolutely believe. So it's weird that that's what's happening. Suddenly Monster Hunter Double Cross, like, just seems way less appealing. I'll probably still look into it, but it's also a game I've already played, so I don't even know. World looks great. Am I sad it's not on Switch? Yes. Does it show that some things aren't really happening the way maybe they should be? Yes. I don't know what's happening with Nintendo and why they didn't get this game. They got the 3DS one instead, but it is what it is. But I love Monster Hunter. I got a PS4. I will definitely be playing that game. I thought it looked really fantastic. They showed a Shadow of the Colossus remake. Very excited. Gonna play it. They did spend a long time on a lot of VR games that I was super uninterested in. So I will say that was one of my bets that I got wrong. Both Microsoft and Sony. I thought Sony wouldn't talk about VR. I thought Microsoft would. And the reverse was true. So there you go. Some bets that I got wrong. Although there was a lot I got right today too as well. But yeah, they showed all this VR stuff, and it's like, man, all these games that look really great and that people obviously worked hard on, but they're just probably not going to sell because VR's not taking off. It's not going to be this thing. It's not a big hit. No one plays these games, at least not on the level they probably deserve, because I believe they're good games. But VR, $500, $600, $800 for a thing to put my head into, no thank you, man. So it's a shame they had like 5 or 6 games for about 20 minutes showing off just VR. Oh my gosh. For me, as a non-VR fan, that was dragging, and it was unfortunate. I gotta say, they showed off the new Call of Duty. Call of Duty looked fantastic. Seeing that straight-up gameplay that close and visceral, it looks amazing. They have done with Call of Duty what EA did with Battlefield in the last iteration or two. I mean, it looks like it can stand toe-to-toe with what Battlefield's doing, so they really are going hard at that series with this new Call of Duty, and I'm excited. I love Call of Duty, and this game looks great, so I cannot wait to play this. I'm still hoping for a Switch release, but after seeing that, I don't know, man. I mean, hopefully the team, if there's a team porting it, can really make it work, because that game looked visually insane. Very impressed with what's going on there. Some of the big ones. Let's get to the big one for me. God of War. They showed the new God of War extensively, which I predicted. They gave us a date, early 2018. I predicted that as well. And it looks awesome. I'm a little bit questionable on some things, but overall, it's probably one of the best looking games I've ever seen. Visually, it's amazing. Kratos looks awesome. What's weird is seeing further how it's just a behind-the-shoulder kind of combat thing is a little disappointing. I'm still very excited for the game, and I believe the combat in the game is going to be amazing. But it's like, for me, the God of War games, to me, were made special and unique and carved out its own identity by the fact that you don't control the camera. It's not behind Kratos' shoulder. It's this above shifting camera thing as you move yourself around in combat and fight people. And I get that some people maybe don't love that, and that's fine. But as a fan of it, the reason I'm a fan is because it is unique and different. When you get rid of that and you make this new God of War where you just put the camera behind Kratos, it kind of just becomes like any other game. It's literally just any other action game. At least that's what it seems right now before I've had a chance to play it. And I think that that's too bad because God of War carved itself out as great due to that unique identity, and that seems to be gone. But it's doing something else different. It's telling a story that seems to be very emotional and heartfelt. Kratos is a dad. It seems like the woman talking to him is maybe his new wife. He's got a new son. And, you know, spoiler alert for the original God of War, he was set on his path of vengeance by the loss of his wife and young child initially. And that turned him into who he was, and he had to hunt the gods and stop the God of War for making war the thing that killed his family. It was actually really great. Like, it was a little bit deeper than people want to give it credit for. Still ridiculous, though. So now it's like he's got a new family, and, like, that's an interesting dynamic, and he's carrying his son around. Like, what's going on there? That could be something that makes it kind of a nuisance to play, or it could make it really amazing and interesting. And they did still show combat that was really exciting. And they showed him, you know, talking to this huge beast thing, which is very reminiscent of the older God of War games, too. So I think it's going to do a couple of things I'm questionable on, but a lot of other new things that look very exciting. So overall, I can't help but be massively pumped for it. I have questions, I have concerns, but I'm still more excited than anything. Early 2018, I hope it sticks to that date, less than a year from now. They showed Detroit, whatever the game is, Detroit Human, I don't even remember now. Quantic Dream's new game. Looks fine. I'm not going to play it because I don't really like that kind of gameplay. I've realized that kind of gameplay, that kind of game. And I think what Quantum Dream does is amazing, and it's visually impressive, and I know why they're good and why people like them. So I'm not, like, complaining about it. I just know it's not for me. It's not something I'm going to enjoy, you press left to brush teeth, press X to tie shoe. Like, press triangle to think about your day. It's not for me. It's not for me, but it is for a lot of people. So I think it's going to do really well. I think my younger brother, for example, is a big fan of that stuff. So I hope it serves that audience the way it's supposed to. They showed a Destiny 2 story trailer, which I really enjoyed because it puts some of the story context into Destiny 2. I'm excited for that game, but I've been questionable about the aesthetic and the fact that it looks like kind of more of the same. The story stuff kind of showed further commitment by Bungie into something a little bit newer than I thought it was going to be based on the reveal thing. And it was just nice to see story stuff. So I'm hoping that that's a larger part of this game compared to the first one. So very excited to see it. Really enjoyed that trailer. And there's probably a couple of other ones, here and there that I missed. These are just some of the ones I wanted to hit. And then they had the big closer, which was Spider-Man. Not Last of Us. Another thing I got right. We did not hear from Last of Us. That was another big bet. I'm probably like 80% on my big bets this year, by the way, guys. That's pretty good. Yes, I've missed a couple, but I've gotten a lot right, and I'm pretty proud of that. So anyway, they closed with Spider-Man, which we've been waiting to see for like 2 years now or whatever, and it more than delivered. So this is part of the reason I feel so good about Sony's conference, despite the weirdness and awkwardness and boringness of it or whatever, is just the fact that they closed really strong. Spider-Man looked amazing, you guys, and, I remember I played the Spider-Man 2 game for the GameCube PS2 era that has been the standard everyone's been holding Spider-Man 2 since. Literally since 2004, when Spider-Man 2 the movie came out and Spider-Man 2 the game, that game was as incredible as its legacy says. And a new Spider-Man game does have to live up to it, and this one looks like it's doing it. Combat looked slick, visuals were amazing, a lot of QTE stuff in the back half, which can be okay, but maybe more than I wanted to see. I want to know how easy it is to actually physically play and control Spider-Man through those big, bombastic, motion-filled action scenes. How much of that is press X and watch for a couple of minutes until it tells you to press triangle again? And I feel like it probably is more of that, which is too bad. But it did look incredible. The action scenes were directed really, really well. And I love the story, the humor, the comedy and dialogue coming from Spider-Man made a lot of sense. He's dealing with Wilson Fisk, who we know is the Kingpin, and he's trying to help the bad guys, but also stop the bad guys. And it has a stealth element, and the web slinging and the spider sense and the dodging and combat looked amazing. If that game truly plays like what this demo showed us, which we all know it might not, because that's what happens. If it truly plays like that, it's going to be absolutely spectacular. No pun intended. So, yeah, I thought that was a really strong closer, considering it wasn't a typical Naughty Dog kind of thing, which is usually what they do. They close with something like that. So, very impressed, very happy with that. So overall, in wrapping up, and maybe I should probably give it a grade too. We've all been doing grades all day. That's what we like to do at E3. I'll say the majority of these games were 2018. There's very little stuff that I think we know might be right now slated for 2017. That's the problem Sony always has. They do have great games. They show us great games. They always look exciting, but they're always years away and they get delayed a lot. So we're always waiting for Sony's games, which is the whole greatness awaits. It sure does. That's the kind of running joke. But it doesn't mean, great games are still great though. So that to me is exciting. Considering the fact that so many of them are next year though, still does kind of knock it down a little bit. If I was going to grade it, even though I love the fact that it was no BS, just games, and a lot of them were exciting, I still got to knock it a little bit for the lack of actual presentation to the audience there, and the fact that so many were next year. So if I'm going to grade it, and these could probably change, but I think I'm going to give it a B+. A B+, solid B+. Yeah, I'll just say a B+. I don't want to dissect it any more than that. It was very good. It wasn't great, it wasn't excellent, it didn't blow my mind. I think that Ubisoft and Microsoft still had better shows for different reasons. But Sony did have a hell of a lot of games. They didn't waste our time with anything we don't want to hear, except for VR. And a lot of the games looked great to me. They made me interested and excited. And I'm not going to complain about new games, you guys. I'm not that guy. Rob is happy when he's got new games to play for all consoles. And I'll say the trend and the theme with conferences this year seems to have been just show game. Very little talking and fluff. And that's great, and it gives me a lot of hope for Nintendo's Spotlight. Tomorrow, we're going to get that 25-minute Spotlight. We're going to get a bunch of Treehouse stuff, and we're going to get some sort of new reveals in the first hour of the Treehouse. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about Nintendo anymore until tomorrow. I will say, Sony, you did a very good job. Very happy with all the new games E3 as a whole has been giving us. And Sony, you get a B+ for me, and that's really solid. I think last year's was better, but I still did very much enjoy this year. So that's it. I'm going to wrap up this for now. Tell me what you guys thought of Sony's conference, of all the trailers. Did you find it really boring? Did you hate the game show? Did you like the games? Did you like the lack of talking? Did you want more talking? All these different things. Discuss it below. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I will catch you next time on another E3 video.